Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Nikhil.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Praveen. Are any more people expected? I think we should get started. We should move on. Prashant has joined us, and I hope he has informed you that I'm not doing that bit on the Indian thinkers, okay, Buddha, Kautilya. That is because of the fact that I have already done that with another class, which is the MA class. And those recorded lectures are already on YouTube. Okay, so you don't even need me to send you a link or anything. They're there for public viewing. And ever since I've started putting these lectures, I've been getting a lot of people who are viewing, not necessarily from our college. It looks like other people are coming more than our own college people. But they are available. I sent a link to Prashant yesterday, which will take you straight to my YouTube studio, as it is called. Or if you like, you can go into YouTube and you can type A space V space Satish space CHANDRA, and you will get all those lectures. All the lectures, even the ones that I've been taking for you, are loaded there. Just click on the lecture and you will get the topic. Okay, you'll get the topic. So what you can do is you can go through those lectures for Kautilya and Buddha. Okay, so that should because otherwise we are running out of time. Whoever who has made this syllabus has made an awful lot of nonsense. I mean, it's not nonsense. Syllabus is not nonsense, but expecting me to teach so much in such a short time, and that too with 3 classes a week, now that is very, very difficult to complete. Anyway, so please go to YouTube. Prashant, I hope you'll spread the word around. Anyway, I'll put one post on your group about that.
Yes, sir.
But please tell everyone. Okay, so all right. So let's get on with Western political philosophy. This is supposed to be a comparison between Buddha, Kautilya, and along with them you have Plato and Aristotle, and that's not how it really works, because they are all very different in nature. And it's like asking somebody to compare a compare an apple with a brinjal. Okay, you wouldn't even know where to start comparing them, right? One is a vegetable, the other is a fruit, so that comparison doesn't even stand. Anyway, so let's get into the Greek period. Um, the Greek period, some people refer to it uh, the Hellenistic period. Okay, Hellenistic, Hellenistic period. I would ask you not to use that term, because that term is also used to refer to a number of things around the Mediterranean. And apart from that, it is a post-Alexander the Great usage. It came from the Greek term Helazine, Hella, Hella, Zedin, Zine. Helazine basically means those who spoke Greek, or those who identified themselves with the Greeks. They were called the Hellenistic people. So, strictly speaking, please do not use that particular term if somebody used it in some of the books that you're referring to. Okay, now if you look at if you basically look at the Greek period, we are supposed to start off with Plato, but we need to have a couple of things out of our we need to have a couple of things out of the way. And what we should do is that we should start with the Milesian school. And I'm not going to take too much time, because this is only introduction to Greek thought. Okay, now there are two aspects to Greek thought. The aspect represented by the Milesian school is that which is sometimes called a materialist school, but I will ask you to desist from using the term materialist, because materialist has a completely different meaning. What I would ask you to use on the Milesian school is the term which says, you know, explaining the universe in naturalist language, okay, without taking recourse to the supernatural. Okay, so the Milesian school represents that kind of a school where they try to explain nature using nature's categories only. Okay, whereas the other tendency that is there is, one part of that tendency is to use the supernatural, which is the mythological. Okay, that becomes the mythological, and that is not very significant. But the really significant other is the usage of the occult, OCCULT, occult. The occult is that which you cannot see, and the usage of mathematics. Okay, so if you are talking about this particular school, you can roughly say has its roots in Pythagorean thinking. Pythagorean thinking is coming from the name of Pythagoras, Pythagoras. He's also called Pythagoras by our people. He's not Pythagoras, he's Pythagoras. And you know his theorem, the very famous theorem. And we'll come to that. This particular school takes recourse to the abstract and the occult, because mathematics, there here, please do not confuse mathematics for arithmetic. They don't use numbers. Okay, they did not use numbers. They were not very good with numbers. Numbers came out of India. Indian maths is that which use numbers and decimals and all those kind of things, which none of the other European countries could do. So the Greek civilization used geometry mainly, and also the occult. We'll get to that in a little while. Now, the Milesian school comes into prominence simply for this one reason, where it rejected the Greek mythology. It completely rejected the Greek mythology. Because let me give you one example. If somebody asked you, I am resting on this floor of this building, and this building is resting on earth, and where is the earth resting, or on what is the earth resting upon? The answer given by the Greeks was that Atlas, 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 the god. He was a god, one of the gods actually. Though we today call the atlas, the maps that we see, we call it an atlas. It comes from his name, Atlas. He's supposed to be carrying it on his shoulder. Okay, carrying the earth on his shoulder. And please do not go by the depiction of Atlas cycles, because they show somebody carrying a round earth. Okay, that is not what the Greeks had in mind. They thought that the earth was flat. They thought it was a flat disk. Right? Now, the Milesian school wanted to debunk all this mythology and try to understand what was actually the best way to identify the gaining of knowledge. And they thought it was by understanding nature in naturalist terms. The Milesian school draws its name from the polis, which is Miletus. Okay, what we call ancient Greece was actually not a unified country. They all had several different police. The plural has LIES. Okay, so that is the police, and so the Militus police gave birth to this Milesian schools. Some people also call them Ionians. Okay, not Ionians, it is Ionians, because Miletus was according to some, these people were also close to the Ionian Sea. Okay, the Ionian Sea. So, but please don't use that. I just put it there so that if you ever confront this bit, you know that why they are called Ionians by some people, but it is literally some people. The correct name for that school is Milesian school. Okay, and like I said, this school is the first documented school of thinkers who tried to understand the world, the universe, or even call it nature, using natural categories and a language of naturalism, where you'll say, which means you'll say, I will use things that are there in nature to explain why things happen in nature. And there is also another significant, uh, uh, you know, what should I say, significant importance, and that is these people and their early investigations were brought back into the limelight during the Renaissance that happened in history in Europe, and a number of things that were being the number of things that were being investigated by the Milesians came up again for investigation. And that is the reason why I thought I must discuss the Milesians with you. Now you see, you have Thales, you have Anaximander, and Anaximenes, the last three names on your slide, if you're able to see the slide. Okay, Thales, it's not pronounced Thales, it's pronounced Thales. Thales was the first of the Milesians, and Thales believed that the earth was a flat disk, like people before him, but he thought that it is something that is resting in water. Okay, that is where the Ionian Sea comes into prominence, because one could see the Ionian Sea, and his belief was that the earth is not resting on Atlas's shoulders or anything like that, but is essentially resting upon, or is in water. Now, we do know that the earth is not a flat disk. We also know that it doesn't rest in water. But this is the first time the significance of Thales's statement is the use of water in order to describe the earth. Otherwise, it was only ever described as land in the Greek tradition, not in the Indian tradition. In the Indian tradition, we didn't see the earth as flat, by the way. And neither did we think that it was resting anywhere. But that you'll get when you see that. Let me make a quick point. India, I told you, was called Jambu Dvipa. Okay, it was called Jambu Dvipa because it was actually supposed to be a land that had a lot of blackberries, okay, which we call Kala Jamun, right? So it is the Jamun, which was the old name for that was Jambu. So Jambu Dvipa, because Dvipa is an island, right? And so you will see that the Indians believed that there were 7 layers. That's why they said 7 seas. and they were all circular. Okay, so they were much ahead of the Greeks at that time. Anyway, but that's not for us to discuss now. Now, Thales is the one of the first documented Western thinkers who talks about water instead of talking only about land mass. Okay, so that is one of the significant contributions of Thales. He was followed by Anaximander. Now, Anaximander is sheer genius. He has, and by the way, Thales believed that everything came out of a primary substance. Okay, and for him, the primary substance was water. Okay, everything came out of this primary substance called water. And apart from the fact that he brought water into the parlance of description of the earth, the other thing of great significance is that today also we believe that life originated in water. And by saying that the primary substance, the first substance from which everything came out is water, Thales was actually saying something which even today we also agree. We believe that life originated in water, then it came onto land. Okay, that is what we believe. So that you must remember is an extremely important contribution, though the idea of a primary substance didn't stand for too long. Now, if you go to Anaximander, like I said, he's sheer genius. Okay, he's somebody who amazes people with the greatness of his thinking. The first thing that he rejected about Thales is that the earth is resting in water. He says, if you say that the earth is resting in water, then what about the idea of where the water is resting? That is the question that Anaximander asked. And where is water resting? So he came up with this particular thing that the earth is a cylinder. You know what a cylinder is, right? He said it is a cylinder, and he said it is not resting on anything. Okay, he said it is suspended in space. Okay, it is suspended in empty space, but it does not fall. It does not fall because of the fact that this cylindrical shaped earth rotates on its own axis. Now, he's very, very close, so close to our modern theory, except that we today don't say it's a cylinder, we say it's an ellipse. Okay. But he said it's a cylinder that is rotating on its own axis, and it is that which keeps the thing from falling in empty space. Okay, so that is his first very big contribution. The next very big contribution of Anaximander that you will see is that he rejects the idea of a primary substance. Okay, he rejects the idea of a primary substance. He says there is no primary substance from which anything evolved or everything evolved. He said the world comes into being because of a combination of opposites. Okay, a combination of opposites. And what is the combination of opposites that he's talking about? He says opposites have a tendency to attract each other. So he says you put heat and cold together, then what happens? Heat flows into cold and cold flows into heat, right? So when heat flows into cold, cold ceases to be cold. And when cold flows into heat, heat ceases to be heat. That is how he says the world comes into being. So he also said wet and dry, land and water. Okay, they also come together. Okay, wet and dry come together. And he factored in the sun. And he also said there is that element of heat that comes into this wet and dry, which makes the wet lose its wetness and the dry lose its dryness. So this is the combination of opposites that Anaximander is talking about. So this is his second important contribution. He says there's no primary substance. There's no one substance from which everything emanated or came out. Now, the third very important thing that Anaximander talked about is what he called the tendency of things to fall. Okay, he was looking at, he was basically looking at, for example, if I'm holding this pen, right? If I'm holding this pen, he would also hold this pen or some other thing like this. He says, as long as I'm holding it, it is fine. The moment I let go of it, it falls. So he thought everything had a tendency to fall. And he, before he died, was investigating into why do things have a tendency to fall. And here he used some mathematical formulae, algebraic, people say, but that's what he did. And he was investigating how and why things have a tendency to fall. So this is the greatness of Anaximander. Mind you, this is before the 5th century BC. So we are talking BCE, sorry. So we are talking about somebody who is asking and laying out these kind of things in that ancient period of Greece or Miletus. Okay, and Anaximander's influence can be seen. I put this thing here, modern science. Okay, Anaximander's influence was first on Galileo. Galileo was the first thinker to basically pick up where Anaximander left off. Please remember Renaissance, Renaissance, is nothing but rebirth. Okay, In English, it will be renaissance, which is RE hyphen NASCENCE. Renaissance. Nascence is birth. Renaissance is rebirth. So what is it the rebirth of? So this is the rebirth of the knowledge of classical antiquity of Europe, which is nothing but ancient Greece. Okay, so ancient Greece, the things that the Greeks were involved with, those things were born again. When we come to the medieval period, when I talk to you about the church state controversy, I will be telling you why that particular period, the Christendom, which is the medieval period, is called the Dark Ages of European history. The Middle Ages or the medieval period is also called the Dark Ages. I'll tell you that later. It is with the Renaissance that people started using human thinking, rationality again. Otherwise, they weren't doing it during the medieval period. So if you look at Galileo, we only know Galileo because of his telescope, okay, and the heliocentric theory of the earth as opposed to the geocentric theory which is there in the Bible. I won't talk about that now. I'll talk about that later. But we will definitely talk about this experiments that Galileo was performing. And these experiments were called the Cannonball Experiments. Okay, Galileo, we have a tendency in India, we say Galileo. He's not to be pronounced as Galileo, he's Galileo, Galileo, Galileo of Galilee. He came from the province of Galilee. Anyway, so he was conducting the Cannonball experiments. So what are the Cannonball experiments? The Cannonball experiments were nothing but Galileo picking up this idea of Anaximanders, that things have a tendency to fall. Okay, Galileo thought, yes, things have have a tendency to fall. He looked at what Anaximander had worked on, and he was trying and understand how things can defy this particular tendency to fall that they have. Okay, how do they defy this particular tendency? So he conducted the cannonball experiments in which he fired cannonballs. You know what a cannon is? Top, as we call it in India. He would put a cannonball, a ball in it, and fire it. Okay, and he calculated the force that was being generated by firing of a cannonball by using different kind of explosives, and he came to the conclusion that greater the force that is used in firing the cannonball, the greater the distance that the cannonball travels without falling, or the greater the distance the cannonball travels by defying the tendency to fall. Okay, these were the experiments that were being conducted by Galileo. Okay, and it is from this that Newton picked up the theory of gravity. He had available to him Galileo's cannonball experiments. He also had available to him Anaximander's equations, and he, and please don't go by that cock and bull story about Newton sitting under a tree and an apple fell on his head, and he basically thought, why did this fall on my head? Why didn't it go into the air? Okay, that's nothing but a good story to tell to a small child, but that is not true. He was very much aware of the fact that Galileo had already conducted a great deal of experimentation. He talked about force. It is just that Newton's greatness was in locating the force not in the thing, or rather the tendency to fall in the thing, but he put it as it is the earth's tendencies to pull things down, which is what makes things fall. And not so, he also believes that you can defy the Earth's gravitational force by using a counter force. It is through that people have come to the calculation of escape velocity. Escape velocity is how much force and speed do you need to escape from the Earth's gravitational pull. So it is the, the ability to travel 100 kilometers, I don't remember that, in 11 seconds. That's called escape velocity. Is it 100 or 1000 kilometers? 1000 kilometers, I think, in 11 seconds. If you travel with enough force, which is what the rockets are, and they take you out, and that is basically how you can escape the gravitational force and go into an orbit around the Earth. Okay, so that is the greatness of Anaximander. Now, after him, Anaximenes is a bit of a disappointment. He's a bit of a disappointment because he goes back once again to the idea of a primary substance. Okay, and instead of identifying it as water, which Thales did, he identified the primary substance to be air. Okay, because he said it is air that we are breathing that is keeping us alive. So air is the primary substance. And here you have a certain kind of a theory of condensation, which is, he said, when air condenses, you know what is condensation? I'm not going to go into that, which is, when molecules of air come closer together, then they form water, he said, which is a liquid. Okay, air, which is a gas, becomes a liquid due to condensation. And further condensation of water, the molecules in the water, is what becomes the solid, which is the earth. Okay, so he says it is air which is the primary substance, and it can condense into water and earth. And he also has a theory of rarefaction, because he says when air rarefies, it becomes fire. Okay, when air becomes rarefied, it's fire. And this is used by Heraclitus as the primary substance. Heraclitus, who came after Anaximenes, says the primary substance is fire and everything came out of fire. Anyway, that is as far as the Milesian school is concerned. I wouldn't want to do it at this great speed at which I have done it, but we are running short of time. So I hope to see you all on Monday